The email arrived at 6:48 a.m. Performance review summary. My stomach twisted even before I opened IT. IT had been a long month at the company, especially after I'd spent endless nights debugging our platform's new release. When I finally clicked the message, my eyes caught one line that burned itself into my brain. Minimal contribution to project success. Minimal contribution. I blinked twice, thinking I'd read it wrong, to know. It was there, stamped under Supervisor's comments, signed by Ryan. Ryan, the man who couldn't write 10 lines of code without breaking something. I felt heat crawl at my neck. I had been the one fixing the database loops, rewriting the APIs, deploying updates, while Ryan called it a night. The review also said I wouldn't be recommended for a bonus. That bonus was what I'd planned to use to help my brother with his tuition. I sat still, the only sound in my apartment, the faint hum of my laptop fan. Minimal contribution? If that's what he wanted to write, then I'd show him exactly how minimal I was. I'd joined Vortex Systems 3 years earlier, when it was just a half-built dream in a rented workspace downtown. We had 6 developers and a big vision to build a logistics platform that could track every delivery truck in real time. I was the youngest, fresh from college, but obsessed with code. Ryan joined later, brought in as a senior lead. He liked titles more than tasks. From the start, he talked more than he typed. Still, I respected him. I learned early that in corporate worlds, being quiet meant being underestimated, which was sometimes an advantage. By the end of the first year, I had written more back-end functions than anyone else, yet the credit went to the team, which meant Ryan. It didn't bother me then, but after this review, everything felt different, sharper. I remembered every night I'd spent fixing Ryan's errors, every time he had taken my commits and renamed the files before presentations. Maybe this was my fault for staying silent too long. Maybe it was time to stop letting him define what I was worth. The next morning, I arrived early, long before Ryan. The office was quiet, just the clicking of my keyboard and the smell of burnt coffee. I logged into our internal Git server, scanning the commit logs. Every piece of code was timestamped, tagged, and traced. Every build had my fingerprints. I scrolled through hundreds of entries. Bug fix, route parser, me. Optimization, data pipeline, me. Main release patch version 4.1, me. And then there were Ryan's. Review update. Minor changes. Documentation. Documentation. The data didn't lie. Our system tracked who pushed what, when, and how many lines were changed. If he wanted to call my work minimal, I would use his favorite language, data, to answer. That night, I backed up everything. Every server log, every code commit, every timestamp. A quiet, organized mountain of truth. When I zipped the final folder, the size blinked on screen. 14.2 GB, 14 gigabytes of proof that minimal had built the company's backbone. By Friday, word had spread about the reviews. People whispered near the water cooler. Ryan walked around like a hero, smiling too easily, holding his coffee like a trophy. When he saw me, his smile widened. "Hey," he said, tapping his watch. "Got your review? Let's talk soon. Growth areas, you know?" I forced a smile. "Sure. Anytime." Inside, my chest burned. He leaned closer. "You're talented, Mia, but you've got to show initiative. Leadership's about visibility, not just typing behind screens." I wanted to laugh. Visibility. He was visible because people like me made him look capable. After he left, I opened Slack and a message from Tasha, our QA engineer, popped up. He did it again. He said he wrote the new parser. I stared at the screen. That parser had taken me 3 months of sleepless nights. Something inside me hardened. "Fine, Ryan. You want visibility? You'll get it in front of everyone." That weekend, I stayed in my apartment with 2 things, my laptop and a folder named Truth. I started documenting, line by line, how our platform had evolved. For every major module, I copied the server log, the commit ID, and the contributor field. I color-coded the sections, blue for my work, gray for Ryan's. After 4 hours, the screen looked like a blue ocean with a few scattered islands of gray. The ratio was brutal, 90% blue, 10% gray. I didn't stop there. I gathered email threads where Ryan had forwarded my updates as his own summaries. I included screenshots from our code management dashboard, showing my username next to every build timestamp. When I printed the summary report, it came to 48 pages. I held it in my hands, the weight of evidence almost comforting. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let this man rewrite my story again. Monday morning, the office buzzed with talk about a new client demo. Ryan strutted around, assigning tasks he barely understood. When I walked by his desk, he stopped me. "Mia, about that bug fix," he said. "Make sure you push the new version before Thursday. I'll need it for the demo." "Got it," I said flatly. Then he added, "Also, leadership wants me to present the quarterly contributions chart. You'll send me your summaries, right?" My chest tightened. That was the same report he'd used last quarter. Mine, just with his name on top. I nodded. "Sure. I'll prepare something special this time." He smiled, completely unaware. "Good. I'll need it by Wednesday." When he turned back to his monitor, I opened a new file. Contribution overview for executive review. But this time, the version he'd get would be very different from the one I'd keep. That night, I stayed late at the office. The city outside glowed through the glass walls, blue neon reflections bouncing off polished floors. At 9:12 p.m., the cleaning crew came in. I was still typing. Every keystroke felt like reclaiming something that had been stolen. I added graphs from the server logs, showing contribution percentages per user. Ryan, 8%. Me, 90.7%. Others, 1.3%. When I saw the numbers visualized, even I was shocked. I'd known I worked hard, but not that I'd practically built the system. By 11:30 p.m., I exported the file as a PDF, labeled it Company Contribution Summary, verified by logs. I uploaded it to my personal cloud drive, then printed a single copy. As the printer whirred, the paper sliding out warm, I realized this wasn't just about fairness anymore. IT was about every quiet worker who'd ever been erased by someone louder. The next day, Ryan called for a one-on-one. He sat behind his desk like a king holding court. "Mia," he began, "I know you're upset about the review, but don't take it personally. It's just feedback." "Feedback?" I asked. He nodded. "You're great technically, but you need to be more strategic. Big picture. You do the small stuff." Small stuff. I almost smiled. Small like the authentication system? Or the live tracking engine? He blinked, caught off guard. "Well, yes, but—" "Ryan," I interrupted softly. "You signed off on my work every week. How could my contribution be minimal?" He waved his hand, dismissing it. "Let's not get emotional. Just focus on improving visibility." I stood. "Don't worry," I said calmly. "I'm about to become very visible." He frowned, confused. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing you need to worry about yet," I said, and I walked out before he could respond. 2 days later, the company held its quarterly all-hands meeting. Every department was present: engineering, sales, finance. Ryan was set to present team achievements and future goals. As everyone gathered in the glass conference room, he stood near the big screen, radiating confidence. I sat in the third row, the report folder heavy in my lap. He started with buzzwords: synergy, innovation, leadership growth. Then he pulled up a slide titled Engineering Highlights. A bar chart filled the screen. My work, my modules, my builds, all labeled under his name. My stomach clenched. When he said, "This backend optimization was my initiative," I quietly opened my laptop. The folder, Truth, glowed like a small blue light on the desktop. I took a slow breath. "He wanted to make this public?" "Fine. So would I." The slide changed again, a timeline showing project milestones, each milestone I had built, tested, deployed. Ryan continued, "This quarter's efficiency improvements came from my decision to restructure code ownership." That was enough. I raised my hand. The room fell silent. Ryan froze mid-sentence. "Yes, Mia," he said, forced smile tightening. I stood. "You said your decision improved efficiency. Could you clarify which part of the restructuring you coded yourself?" A few people turned in their seats. He chuckled nervously. Well, leadership isn't always about code. Then maybe you can explain why the server logs show your account made 8% of the commits while mine made 90%. Whispers erupted. The CTO, sitting in the front row, looked up sharply. Is that accurate? Ryan's color drained. I'd have to check. Already did, I said. Would you like to see the report? The CTO's eyes narrowed. Yes, please. Send it to me. And just like that, the air in the room shifted. After the meeting, the CTO pulled me aside. He was calm but firm. Mia, can you forward the data you mentioned? I nodded, heart racing. Of course. I attached the PDF and the raw server log exports. He scanned the files right there, his brow furrowing deeper with each scroll. These timestamps, they match production pushes. Yes, sir. And Ryan signed off on these as his? Yes. He nodded slowly. I'll handle this internally. Thank you. That night, Ryan sent me a Slack message. What the hell was that? You embarrass me in front of everyone. I stared at it for a while, then typed. No, Ryan. You embarrassed yourself. Then I muted his chat and went to bed for the first time in weeks feeling calm. The next morning, HR called me into a meeting. The HR manager, Ms. Patel, was there, along with the CTO. Ryan sat across from me, red-faced but trying to look composed. Mia, Ms. Patel began carefully. We reviewed your documents. They're detailed. Ryan jumped in. This is a misunderstanding. She's exaggerating her role. The CTO cut him off. We verified the logs through our independent audit server. The numbers don't lie. Silence, MS. Patel turned to Ryan. Do you have any explanation? Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it again. I watched his confidence crumble in real time. Finally, he said, maybe she helped more than I realized. Helped? I repeated. I built the system you use to log in every morning. The CTO leaned back, arms crossed. We'll be discussing disciplinary actions, Ryan. You can wait outside. He left without meeting my eyes. The door clicked shut behind him. I exhaled slowly. IT wasn't over yet, but the truth was finally speaking. For the next 2 days, rumors spread like wildfire. People whispered in hallways, glancing at me as I pass, and no one said it out loud, but everyone knew something big was happening. On Thursday, the CTO called another all-hands meeting. When we gathered in the conference room, Ryan wasn't at the front this time. He sat 2 rows back, pale and silent. The CTO stood before us. After an internal review, he began. We discovered discrepancies in project reporting. Certain contributions were misrepresented. He paused, scanning the room. Effective immediately, Ryan Lawson is no longer employed with Vortex Systems. Gasps filled the room. I didn't move. The CTO continued. Additionally, we're promoting Mia Torres to lead developer effective today. Her work speaks for itself. Applause broke out. Ryan stood abruptly and walked out without a word. I sat there, heart pounding, hands trembling, not from fear, from relief. For once, the quiet one had been heard. The office felt different after that meeting, lighter somehow. Like someone had opened a window that had been locked for years. People I barely spoke to before stopped by my desk just to say, congratulations, or it's about time. I smiled, thanked them, and kept my head down, but inside, I wasn't celebrating yet. There were still messes to clean up, technical and emotional. Ryan had left behind half-finished scripts, broken integrations, and an untested deployment queue. The CTO asked me to lead a stabilization sprint, and I accepted without hesitation. That night, as I walked home through the city's flickering lights, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Peace, and fear of being silenced, and dread of seeing my work twisted into someone else's story. When I got home, I opened my laptop. The folder called Truth was still on my desktop. I hovered over it for a second, then dragged it to a new one. Proof of growth. Because that's what it had become. Not revenge, but record. Proof that truth, once written, doesn't fade. My first week as lead developer was chaos. Everyone was used to Ryan's style. Loud orders, vague plans, last-minute panic. I preferred quiet focus. The team watched me carefully, like they weren't sure if I'd turn into another version of him. I decided to do the opposite. I gathered everyone in the break room. "Listen," I said. "I'm not here to boss anyone around. I just want us to build something that works and means something. Fair credit for fair work." Tasha grinned. Finally. We spent the next few days sorting through Ryan's code. IT was worse than I expected. Untracked commits, mislabeled branches, security shortcuts. At one point, the junior dev, Arjun, sighed. "How did this even run?" I smiled. Barely. But there was energy now, the kind that comes when people know they're safe to try, to fix, to grow. Every day we made the system cleaner. Every night I stayed late, not out of fear anymore, but out of pride. Friday afternoon, the CTO visited our floor. He stopped by my desk, watching the new dashboard I deployed. "This update," he said. "It's smooth. Real improvement." "Thank you," I said. He smiled. "You've turned the mood around here. HR told me even the interns are volunteering for extra testing." That made me laugh. Guess transparency is contagious. He nodded. "We're presenting to investors next week. I want you to demo the platform." For a moment, my throat tightened. Ryan had always done the demos, taking credit while I ran checks in the background. Now it would be my turn, but not to gloat. To prove what the quiet ones could do when given the mic. After he left, I looked at the new banner we'd added to the system's homepage, built by Vortex Engineering together. It was simple, but it meant everything. Finally, the we actually meant all of us. The investor demo was held in the big glass boardroom downtown. Dozens of people filled the seats, partners, clients, even a few journalists. I set up the live dashboard. My hand shook a little. Tasha whispered, "You got this." When it was time, I took a breath and began. "Good morning. My name is Mia Torres, and I'll be walking you through what our platform can really do." I clicked through the slides, each one alive with real-time data, every feature humming perfectly. The investors leaned forward, impressed. One of them, a tall woman with silver hair, asked, "Who designed this architecture?" I met her eyes. "Our team did. But I wrote most of the backend myself." A few people exchanged glances. The CTO smiled slightly, letting it sink in. When the demo ended, the room erupted in applause for once, not polite clapping, real, sustained applause. I exhaled, heart pounding, and thought, this is what visibility should feel like. After the demo, things moved fast. Vortex landed 2 new contracts. Leadership sent a company-wide email praising the engineering team, and my actual name, was in it. I printed the email and pinned it near my monitor, not for vanity, but as a reminder of how far I'd come. The next day, the CTO called me to his office. He offered me a raise and asked if I'd consider mentoring new hires. "Of course," I said, smiling. "But I want them to learn something we never got taught, documentation and fairness." He laughed. "Fair enough." Before leaving, he said quietly, "For what it's worth, you handled everything with more grace than most people could. We're lucky you stayed." I nodded. "I didn't stay for the company," I said. "I stayed for the people who do the real work." He understood. That's when I knew leadership wasn't a title, IT was responsibility, earned through storms. Weeks passed, and slowly, the old tension faded. New faces joined the team, fresh graduates, full of ideas and nerves that I saw a bit of my younger self in them. One afternoon, a junior named Bella stayed late fixing a data error. When she finished, she sighed, "I bet no one even notices this stuff." I smiled, handing her a mug of coffee. "Someone always notices, even if they pretend not to." She looked up. "You mean like your old supervisor?" I laughed softly. "Yeah, but he taught me something valuable. Never depend on someone else to tell your story. Keep your own receipts." Her eyes widened. "Receipts?" "Proof," I said. "The kind that speaks louder than opinions." She grinned. "Got it." That moment stuck with me, because I realized my story had stopped being about revenge, that IT had become a guide for others to stand their ground, without losing their soul. Then, one rainy afternoon, an unexpected email arrived, subject line, apology did IT was from Ryan. My pulse quickened as I opened it. Mia, I heard about your promotion. Congratulations, did I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want to apologize. I let ego ruin something good. You built something incredible, and I took credit for it. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it. Another part, the tired, human part, felt a strange sadness. Finally, I typed back. Thank you for saying that. I don't hold grudges, but I hope you remember that people notice more than you think. I hit send. IT wasn't about forgiveness or pity. IT was about closure, a quiet ending to a loud mistake. The next few months were golden. The platform grew faster, smoother, more stable. Clients sent thank you messages, and for once, everyone on the team got recognized. We added a new feature, a code tracker that automatically listed contributors by name, and no one could overwrite or erase credits again. One evening, I stayed back to watch the last commit of the day go live. Tasha walked by and said, "You know, the old version of this system never felt alive. Now it does." I smiled, because it finally has a heartbeat. The city lights blinked outside the window, reflections of a world that had no idea what battles had been fought inside this glass box. But I knew, and I was proud of every scar that came with victory. 6 months later, Vortex held its annual gala. The biggest event of the year. IT was at the same hotel ballroom where Ryan once bragged about his success. Now I stood at the podium, wearing a navy dress and holding the microphone. 3 years ago, I began. This company was just a dream on borrowed servers. Today, our platform supports over 1,000 clients worldwide. And that's because of you. The builders, the testers, the quiet problem solvers. The crowd cheered. Somewhere in the back, I saw Bella, smiling proudly. I continued, there's a line in our code that says, if it runs, someone cared enough to fix it. That's what defines us. When the applause filled the room again, I felt tears sting my eyes. IT wasn't sadness. It was released. I had survived the storm and rebuilt something stronger. After the gala, the CTO approached me. He looked at the crowd still laughing, clinking glasses, and said, "You know, we've been offered an acquisition deal. Investors want to buy Vortex." I blinked. "That's huge." He nodded. "It is. But I'm staying. Only if you do too." That made me smile. "I'll stay," I said. "As long as we never forget why we started. Fairness, honesty, people." He raised his glass. "To that." Later, as I walked to my car, I saw the city lights blur through the mist. For the first time, I wasn't rushing home to escape the office. I was walking away from something I'd helped save, and that felt better than any bonus ever could. A year later, we released Vortex 5.0, our biggest update yet. The launch video featured every developer, tester, and designer by name, no single face of success, just a team. The comments online poured in. Finally, a company that gives credit where it's due. You can feel the teamwork in this product. I sat in my apartment that night, watching the view count climb. The screen glowed softly against the darkness. Somewhere deep inside, I whispered a quiet thank you. Not to Ryan, not to the company, but to the version of me that refused to stay silent. Because that version, the one who once shook reading minimal contribution, had changed everything. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's written in clean code and quiet persistence. It's strange how memories fade but lessons stay. Now, whenever a new engineer joins the team, I tell them the same thing. Never underestimate the power of receipts. Facts are louder than opinions. Truth outlives titles. They laugh, but they listen. Every time I walk past the wall displaying our core values, I see the one I helped add. Transparency builds trust. And it hits me. The story that started as betrayal ended as legacy. Ryan's chapter closed, but mine kept writing itself through others who learned to speak up. I still keep that old review email, archived deep in my inbox. Sometimes I open it just to remind myself where it all began. Because every line of code, every heartbeat of our platform, whispers the same thing. Minimal contribution. Hardly. And that, I think, is the best kind of ending, quiet, earned and completely undeniable.